Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Ron LeGrand, back with another issue of the mentorpodcast.com. I have a very special guest to interview today. In fact, this guy might be writing you a check sometime in the not too distant future. His name is Bob Leonetti, hails from the West Texas area, and I've known him for 50 years or whatever.
A long time, buddy.
It's a long time. It has been a long time.
Yeah.
Actually, realistically, not less than 40 years. That's how long I've been at it. And I met you very early in my game, as I recall, back in the 80s.
But I'm not that old.
That's right. I don't see your hair all gray yet. So
You know what? It's got a couple in there, that's for sure. But whatever. I earned them all.
Bob, at least you have some.
That's right.
So anyway, our mission today is to show you how you can sell houses, in fact, even commercial property, with owner financing, and then have Bob buy the note and pay you cash for it. Sometimes at closing or anytime thereafter that you want to sell that note and cash out of it. Bob has been doing this for how many years, Bob?
22.
You haven't figured out
22,
yet?
23. I can't count that high on my hands. I got to take my shoes off.
All right. So
Yeah, it's been a long time.
how about I let you tell them about your background, how important you are, and then I want to get right into this because we could spend way more than 30 minutes on this subject, but I got to get across to them. First of all, most people have no idea you can sell incoming payments. So
Right.
you're talking to mostly a new audience here. And then we got to talk about how to structure them so that discount is small and not huge, which it will be without you in the loop. All right. So start with your background. If you want. Who are you?
Yeah, so my background is I got into real estate back in the early 90s and enjoyed the game. But then I got into the finance game probably about, not too long after that, and worked in the finance portion of the game and learned along the way that I could actually sell payments. I worked for a mortgage company, and I know that if you take out a loan from Bank of America, a month later, Bank of America is selling that loan over to Wells Fargo or Shearson or somebody. And so I realized at that point that there had to be a way to buy other paper. And I got into the privately held paper game, which means that, Ron, if somebody sold a property and they carried back a note when they sold the property, they could sell that note, that receivable, that income stream, just like the banks sold notes to each other. Only in our case, the selling the income stream, I was able to buy those. I put together a fund, and then we pulled everything up and sold it off. So the bottom line is I became an expert at buying and selling privately held paper.
Well, the truth is, Bob, most people don't even know banks do the same thing.
Absolutely.
They sell those mortgages all the time. Very rarely they keep them.
Yeah. They'll
just
sell them almost all the time.
Yeah, fund them, collect the fee, sell them off so they can keep rotating the same money over and over. All right. So in our case, we're talking to real estate investors that hopefully are in the terms business, or I can get them in the terms business, or even if they're not, because this applies if I pay cash and rehab a house and sell with owner financing, the end goal is the same. Very important to our Texas people who cannot put lease option tenant buyers in their houses. Most of them are selling with owner financing. So this is an extremely important exit strategy for them that they need in their mind, because they have to make sure that when they're constructing these terms to sell, that if they're doing it in a way that they can take a very small discount if they want to sell it to you later on. And I always tell people the last thing they want to do is sell you the note, Bob.
Right.
I'm sorry, but
that's all right.
But
I'm a real estate investor too, Ron. I get it.
Better to hold on to it, collect the payments, and make a lot of money. But on the other hand, let's start with why would they want to sell the note other than obviously getting cash? There are underlying reasons many times. One of them, of course, is if there's underlying debt that's a problem and they want to get it paid off, like due on sale clause or whatever.
Or even a private loan. A lot of guys go out and they get private funding when they rehab houses.
Yeah.
And when they close on the house, they got to pay off their investor.
Right.
And so we see that a lot.
So when I buy with cash, get private money, I got to have an exit strategy that cashes me out, but it doesn't have to be qualify them and take them to the bank.
Right.
When I buy on terms, I'm triggering the due on sale clause if there's an underlying loan. In case something were to ever happen in the bank, call it due, which ain't likely, but just in case, nice to have an exit strategy. Or I don't know, maybe there's some good one is if you buy a house and then sell it on a wrap and it's got a line of credit underneath.
Yep.
Better chance of the bank calling a loan due. And in fact, I'll even extend that to reverse mortgages where they're not making any payments. I'm not afraid of them. I don't recommend people go do them unless they really got a good exit strategy, because that's one the bank will call due when they find out about it. So now the bank calls it due, you just get a hold of you, sell a note, cash out.
Sell the note, yeah, exactly. Or sell a portion of the note or whatever it takes. Absolutely.
Or pay everybody off. So nothing underneath now becomes a threat. All right, let's start with, I don't know, you got an example in your head? Maybe a $300,000 house or something like that? That's kind of normal today. The $300,000 house today is my $125,000 house.
I actually have a little a meme that shows a little tiny model house. It's about this big, and it's the sales price. It just got listed for $295,000. I get that. So yeah, $300,000 house. So let's say that you have a borrower or a buyer, and the buyer says they've got some money down. Ron, how much are we looking at down from your typical buyer?
Well, I ain't putting anybody in a house with less than 10% down.
Okay.
And I'm shooting for more than that.
Right. So let's say that they've got 10% down. So you have a $270,000 note to carry. Okay.
Okay.
So the seller carries a $270,000 note. Now, Ron, we're going to get into something here that you and I love to chit chat about, and that is the concept of investment to value. But let me just explain this up front. That $270,000 is 90% of the value of the property. Because the value of the property was ascertained when you sold it. You sold it for $300,000, so you carry back a 90% note.
All right,
$270,000. That's loan to value. Technically, the seller loaned the borrower $270,000. That's 90% loan to value.
Right.
The issue is when I invest in a note, I'm going to look at the risk factors, and I'm going to limit my investment to value.
Mm-hmm.
And that will oftentimes on a brand new note may only be 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now you're thinking
sales price.
Of the sales price. Exactly.
And we need to point out, and that's assuming that it'll appraise for at least that much.
Exactly.
Because you're going to do the lesser of the appraisal or the sales price. And now you got to know that my students are always going to sell it for more than appraised for.
Sure.
If they're listening. Of course, most of them aren't, so we don't need to worry about that. But if they're listening, that $300,000 house could easily hit $320,000.
Yep.
So you're going to deal with, well, you know what? It'll probably appraise for $320,000 in this market.
I was going to say this market, this is such a tight market right now that it'll appraise. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, right now, because we sold it for $320,000.
Right.
All right.
Right. Well, let's just say we sold it for $300,000. Let's keep the numbers at $300,000.
Numbers and the value at $300,000 is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. All right. And I'm going to actually pull my little trusty dusty calculator out here so that I don't misspeak. So let's say that you've got a $270,000 note, but my investment to value at 75% is only going to be $225,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm only going to pay $225,000 for that note, and they carried back a $270,000 note, the world's going to go, oh my gosh, what a huge discount. And what you asked me to do today is explain to folks, how to minimize that discount.
Well, first, before you do that, what if that note is seasoned a year and they've been making the payments on time? Will you go up on your LTV?
Then my investment to value is going to be, depending on where the property is, my investment value may go up to 80 or 85%.
Okay.
It just depends where the property is. If it's on Miami Beach, it'll probably be 80, 85%. If it's in Podunk, middle of nowhere, where I can't resell it, it's going to be 75 to 80.
So if it's in a good, decent market,
Yep.
Seasoned a while,
Yep.
then you're going to go up on the ITV.
Absolutely. We'll go up to the ITV. And, guys, don't ever plan, and I'm going to say this regardless, don't ever plan on getting more than 80% ITV.
Right.
There will be exceptions, but don't ever plan on it.
Okay.
Always structure your deal where that's the max out, because anything above that's going to be an exception.
All right. Now, what if my buyer put down 20%?
Okay.
Does that kind of automatically, most of the time, get it to 80% ITV?
Yeah, that and a good pay history for those first 12 months.
Okay. So that means the loan is 80% of the sales price.
Correct.
From the seller. So now we're selling you the note, and now's your chance to come in with a small discount rather than a big one.
Right.
So without getting complicated, which you could easily do in your world, how would you go about figuring out what you would pay for that note? Of course, ITV is absolutely your safety factor. It's probably the most important thing is the ITV. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Not necessarily the credit, because the larger the down payment, the weaker the credit can be. And you're not a credit buyer, but you want to have decent property and you want some kind of stability, such as large down payment or payment history.
Right. Or both.
To 80%. Okay. So let's say I'm owed 80% of the purchase price and your ITV is 80%. I'm still going to take a discount. Give me a clue as to what that would be, give or take.
You're gonna hate this answer, but it's true. It depends on the interest rate where you wrote the note.
Actually, it's about the payment, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly, or the payment, but whatever the payment rate comes out to be.
All right, but
because you can write it at a low interest and shorten your amortization to give me a higher payment.
Yeah, you're buying payment. Honestly,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what the interest rate is.
Well, the thing is this, though, Ron, is a lot of brand new students. They want to get the property sold so quickly that they're willing to give bank terms to seller finance people.
Right.
And that just doesn't work, folks, because the risk is a lot higher. So if you think that you're going to go out and tell your new buyer you're going to give them 2%, don't do that.
No. But what you're saying is the higher the interest rate, the higher the payment, the less the discount.
Exactly.
It all comes down to today's money in cash versus payments spread out over years. Today's money is always worth more than payments that may or may not come. So again, I'm going to pin you down. Do you give me an answer? You're not getting off the hook till you do. How would you go about figuring out, give or take, what you would pay for that? Nice house, nice area, 20% down, and maybe a year seasoning.
If I've got all things lined up, we're looking at about a 7 to 10 cent discount.
7 to 10% discount.
Correct.
Okay. So in that case, my loan would be for $240. So I'd take about a $15,000 to $20,000 discount if I want to cash out of it.
Correct.
Okay. Which is why I don't want them to cash out of it.
I got you. I understand.
But sometimes they have to.
Well, and sometimes, and again, this is just another tool to put in their toolbox.
Yeah.
It's not a tool that's going to work every single time. We get that. But it is a tool here that's available to you if you need to take that route.
Yeah. Now, there is a way that we can actually sell this thing to you without taking a discount if we structure it correctly. You're still going to discount the note, but we don't have to give all that money away, is what I'm trying to say, if we take back a second.
Correct.
In this case, though, if we're buying it on a wrap, then we're selling it on a wrap, we'd be taking back a third.
Yeah, but by the time that we buy that,
you're not buying the third.
Right. But the thing is, if you're buying on a wrap and selling on a wrap, and we buy the wrap note, if you don't wrap the whole thing, you just do a first and a second, or we buy that, we're going to pay off the underlying We're going to pay off the underlying.
You're going to pay off everything underneath.
Right. So we're going to be in first position and you're going to be in second.
Correct. So let's take my example here. Let's say I sold it for 300. I only got 10% down. So they owe me 270. Why don't I take back a $40,000 second?
That's good.
And create a 230.
Yep.
First, or a wrap, and then sell that 230 to you.
Yep.
And then your discount would be minimal.
Yeah. So, and that's the whole thing, Ron. If people are following this and actually writing it down, guys, the difference here is, remember when I said that my maximum investment to value is going to be, a pretty steep discount. You're capturing, by carrying a second, you're hanging on to those funds. You're hanging on to that equity. You are hanging on to that profit, which otherwise you would give up if you only did it first.
And there's a million ways to create the second before you get all excited and think money, I'm going to get paid. In fact, you and I did a boot camp called Paper Power, and I remember I had 10 things in there to do it as second.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, what I would do with that second, in that case, maybe, is to work with my buyer and go get them qualified and get them refinanced.
Absolutely.
Which time you get paid off your $40,000. And of course, if the $40,000 would be accruing interest, I don't even think I'd want to mess with a payment on it. This makes it very easy for the buyer. They got a smaller first, they got a smaller payment, but it's a lien attached to the house, but it's accruing, say, 7-8% interest. So now when they pay, they get that plus the principal, and they're going to pay you off, especially in a market like this. They're either going to go sell the house or they're going to go refinance it. And of course, you can enforce that with the balloon as long as you stay out of Dodd-Frank, which is hard to do. Or you can take that second and you can trade it for something. I one time traded 6 little second mortgages for a free and clear motorhome. I got the crap into that deal. I'm going to tell you that right now. I gave up income stream for a motorhome. That I sold for 5 years later for about a third of what I paid for it. And every time I drive that sucker, it needed repair. So, he got the best end of that deal. But there's all kinds of things. You can trade it for debt. You can trade it for about anything. You can trade them into real estate.
Yep.
So, but by taking back the second, you're not giving up the money. But if I don't take back the second and I sell you that 270, I'm going to lose all that discount.
You're going to lose 30 to 40 grand right off the top because of the ITV issue. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, of course, if I raise that price to 320 and I don't sell it for a year, it's going to easily appraise for that 320. So
absolutely.
I've probably made up that 20 anyway, at least part of it. So you do your own math, guys, and you can see that now it's all about structuring the thing, Bob. So our goal is to get the payments as high as possible.
Yep.
Because the higher the payment, the less discount you're going to.
Absolutely. And you can raise the payments, Ron, as you know, from playing around with a calculator, you can raise the payments by either raising the interest rate or shortening the term.
Correct. In the case of being competitive, well, you don't have to be too competitive today. When you're selling a house on terms, you're basically got to pick the best buyer, not worry about finding a buyer. And then plenty of them got plenty of money. But just the same, a lot of people are payment conscious. A lot of people, will balk at a very high payment, even with owner financing. But I want to get it as high as the market will stand. By the way, I do that by asking them what's the most they can pay per month. That's how I derive at the payment. I let them, they don't know, but they're bidding against each other. What's the most you can put down? What's the most you can pay per month? And then, of course, the higher that payment, I'll worry about the details after I get that out of their mouth. So, if my payment would normally be $1,500 coming in and they say they could pay $2,000, and I'm going to obviously just take that number and then figure out how much of that's taxes and insurance and then work the principal and interest on the rest. But like you said, if I shorten the term, that's a big benefit for them. Well, it's a perceived benefit. They're going to probably go refinance it anyway down the line. So it matters not how short my term is, but they are paying down more principal. And so if I shorten my term, I get that payment higher and your discount's going to be less. So really, in your case, it comes down to getting the payment higher and the payoff as close as possible to today to make the discount as small as possible.
Absolutely. And guys, here's the other thing too. When you're selling to people, you can be a little picky in today's market, at least in today's market. But we understand that there's going to be some credit issues out there. We got that. We're not a credit-driven buyer. But you know what? If the guy declared bankruptcy last month or had a foreclosure 6 months ago, we're not going to do it.
Well, how long after a bankruptcy would you do it?
Give me at least a year.
Okay. Well,
And show me solid payments for the last year.
Yeah.
Foreclosures, we're going to look at it on a case by case basis, but a couple of years. The issues we end up with a lot of times are a lot of folks who want to buy a house, especially with seller financing. A lot of times are first time home buyers.
Yeah.
And so if I look at their credit and I see a collection account from the Oak Tree Apartments, and I see another collection account from the Pine Tree Apartments, we're going to be like, nah, wait a second. These folks don't like to pay their house payment.
Yeah, that just means you're next.
Exactly. And,
Okay.
people say, well, you just get the property. Yeah, but we're not in the business of owning properties across the country. I personally invest in properties, but,
Okay.
we want to own the paper.
And by the way, you do buy these notes across the country.
Absolutely buy them all over the country.
Even though you're in Austin, that doesn't really matter to them.
No, not at all.
By the way, you are in the fastest growing city in the country.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
In fact, Ron, this is just the little sideline, and but for the last couple of years, the inventory has been down so much in Austin that normally on the MLS you see 7,000-8,000 properties.
Yeah.
We're seeing less than 1,000 in the entire Austin metroplex area.
Well, guess where the second hottest market is?
Let me guess, Jacksonville.
You're correct. And we got the same problem. Okay.
Yeah.
But yet we still get terms deals for crying out loud.
Of course you do, because people just, they want to buy a house, they're out there, but they just can't qualify for conventional financing.
Well, I'm talking about even sellers. We still buy on terms for crying out loud.
Awesome.
Because it's easy to think, well, golly, if there's such a high market, who's going to sell on terms? Well, there's actually a lot of reasons that people sell on terms. One of them is it's not ready to sell. Another, they're embarrassed to show it because it's a junkyard. Or, in my case, if I buy a house on term, they don't have to move out right now. I'll give them a month or two. No owner occupant's going to do that. In fact, I tell them, if you want to leave the furniture, just leave whatever you want. You don't have to clean this house out. By the way, these are big deals to some people, especially somebody moving across the country. Don't have to get rid of all their junk. And we usually pay all the closing costs. So we make it easy for them to sell on terms. There's plenty of reasons people do, especially if they got a debt. Debt relief is one of the biggest ones.
Sure, absolutely. And you're right about fixing the house up. I had a buddy, same situation. His house is worth $4 something. He's without a job and he doesn't have any way to fix his house up. His house needs about 20 grand worth of work to put it on the market.
Yeah. And that's not a rehab in that price house. That's just a clean up spoofoo in that price house.
Yep.
So, a ton of those out there. In fact, I'd say a large percentage of the houses on the market right now need some work on them. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so we buy on terms, we sell on terms. In my case, I lease option it. But I can convert that to cash pretty much anytime I want to. But if I'm selling it with owner financing, which a lot of people do, especially Texans, then it's good to know that you're back there buying that thing. What are some of the traps that I need to look for, Bob, that would keep you from buying it other than terrible credit, little or nothing down, and or terrible property?
Low payments. Because I want to make sure that when I fund the deal, I have enough to pay off anything that's underlying.
Well, of course.
And what happens is sometimes we'll get a note in and, someone said that you'd buy this. And, the note's written at 1% and it's amortized over 50 years and that kind of thing. And I'm like, gosh, the most I can pay for it is this, which doesn't even come close to paying off the underlying. So that's a huge trap.
Okay. So in other words, they should need to get with you.
Absolutely.
To help construct these things before they go open their mouth and tell the buyers what they will do.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. How do they get with you? You got something you want to give them today?
Yeah, I'll do a little offer for them. You guys want to learn more about this. I've actually got 2 home study courses. Each of them are 6 hours. They're online deliverables. In the past, I've sold them for $379 a piece. I'll be happy to do that at $97 a piece, but you've got to go to Ron, give them the website again because I wrote it down. Here we go.
thementorpodcast.com/Leonetti. Spell it.
Leonetti, like spaghetti. Leonetti. Leonetti.
Spell it again.
Leonetti.
Okay. All right. thementorpodcast.com/Leonetti.
Leonetti. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you guys want to learn how to do this terms business, I know Guy is extremely qualified at it. And if you want to, that would be me, by the way. So if you want to learn step by step how we create so many multimillionaires around the country, go to the Mentor Podcast /terms, and that'll take you to an hour and 15-minute training that I did online. The Mentor Podcast .com /terms, and it's free. So just go and sign up, and there'll be one shortly that you can jump on. A lot of good information. Open a whole new world. I mean, if you're watching this and you're not familiar with the terms business, I know we talk about wholesaling, we talk about rehabbing, and that's what most people do when they come into the business, including both Bob and I. But I can tell you the real wealth is in the terms business. It's not in the wholesaling and rehabbing.
Ron, I got into the mortgage business back in 1994. And I was already a real estate investor. And after about a year in the mortgage business, it finally dawned on me how much money I had been leaving on the table by not understanding the financial part behind the whole deal.
I see that all the time, Bob. I know people coming into the business, and sadly, some of them have been in it for 20 years or more, still wholesaling houses, still rehabbing and flipping them. Not even, I don't know whether they don't take the time, or they're not exposed to it, or they just don't care. They make a good living, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But look what they give up. First of all, they get a check. It's all short-term capital gains. The government's going to get half of it. So you only get half of what you make. And there's no residual. There's no future. There's no wealth. There's no monthly income. There's no depreciation. There's no appreciation. There's no tax benefits. There's none of that stuff. And you show me a rehab netting $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and I'll show you a pretty house deal that'll net the same within a month, and the golden goose stays alive for years and years and years and keeps producing wealth.
That's the key right there is, when I was teaching my classes, if you can make money up in one transaction, you can make money now, make money over time, and make another lump sum down the road. You're so much better off than just making some money now.
Absolutely. And the truth is, it's a marginal shift. Let's say I'm going to buy and fix and rehab a house. All right, first of all, I got to come up with the cash, got to borrow the private money, got to get a contractor, got to go fix it. Months later, and that's assuming you get a contractor to the job. And now with the increase in materials we got today, I mean, you really got to be good to make a lot of money in rehab. Minimum 6 months later, I'm getting a check on most of the people that I talk to are willing to do this for $25,000 or $30,000 net profit. I'd rather have a root canal. Shoot me. Do all that work, take all that risk, wait all that time to make 25 or 30 grand when we make it I don't do a terms deal for less than $20,000 upfront, non-refundable option deposit, or in Texas, down payment. And then all that other stuff. I mean, I have this conversation with wholesalers all the time and rehabbers, but I see it going in one ear and out the other. But, one day they wake up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what else would you like our listeners to know while I got you, Mr. Mortgage? Oh, do you want to give them a phone number?
I will, Ron. Here's the number. Everybody listen carefully. It's 833-272-5012. Let me repeat that. It's 833-272-5012.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for taking the time out of your day. You working from home or your office?
I'm working from my office today.
I'm working from my home office today.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. I actually have a thing on my phone. What I do is I take pictures of my office of the day. So if I'm sitting in like a really nice place with a beautiful view, I'll take a picture of it, post it, and say, this is my office today.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool because you can do that because we're in today's world. We can all work virtually.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's my pleasure to introduce you to one of the old guys.
That's right. I'm an old guy.
I just want you to know they're not all dead. Hey, every once in a while we get an email from one of them. Is Ron LeGrand still alive? Here I am. Still kicking. All right. And still doing, my dad. So
yeah,
anyway,
right.
Always fun talking to you, man.
Good talking to you too, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
You take care. Thanks again, Ron. Bye.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.